let's talk through getting started on the practice set. So the starting point is to download the practice set. So come to our home page, down to practice set, which is a funny colour, I'm not sure why. Then practice set guidelines, a bit about it, the practice set forum if you've got any questions, then the practice set, it's an Excel spreadsheet. So if you have any problems with any of these things, I'll probably, put a post up in the forum straight away so we can see get these resolved. So first thing is probably to download it. Now it might download differently well, it may not download the same on everyone's computer. So mine has come down here. I can go into opening the practice set. So when it opens, it should open up at, I'll move this across, more into the screen. It's probably best to watch this on full screen. Righto, so you come to your home page, your details, so start off by just putting in, your name, student number, whatever else you're studying. Though in some ways it doesn't matter because you may not need to send this to me. Well, most of you won't, but some of you may at some stage wish to send it to me. And it's probably more for your records. Then what I've got next is just a little bit about the accounting cycle, just to give you the big picture stuff of what we're doing here. And so what do we have first? We bring a transaction to account with a journal. And in this workbook we have the general journal and 4 special journals. And the special journals are also associated with subsidiary ledgers. So then we post items to the general ledger, and in some case we also post some items to a subsidiary ledger. Then those items are summarised in a trial balance, and from the trial balance we prepare the financial statements. So this practice set, we're in fact going to work through all of those steps to bring transactions to account, so we finally prepare the financial statements. And as well as that, there's one other stage which is not in here, is we have opening balances. So the first thing we'll need to do is make sure those opening balances are properly recorded. Well, here's your instructions. So here's the business. It's called Computers at Armidale. Now you can read through that, but there's a few things here. You've been provided with the following information, and in fact there's a little bit of other information. Is there? No, that's the information you've got. So trial balance for the period, actually that should says trial balance as at the 31st of the 5th, 05. So you may even change that if you can to say trial balance as at that period, subsidiary ledgers at that date, chart of accounts, list of transactions for June, a note containing helpful information, a bank statement and some additional data. Right, let's have a look at some of those pages, or what's there. So trial balance, so we've got trial balance opening, and the trial balance opening is also the closing trial balance for May. So what do we have in here in the trial balance is there's all our balances in there of accounts. So, and they're divided up into permanent accounts and temporary accounts. You'll come to know those later on. Now it's important to know that this practice set is a learning experience. So a lot of the things when you first come across them, there will be a lot of things you won't fully understand. Now the purpose of working through this practice set is so by the time we get to the end, you will fully understand things. The next thing in here we have the chart of accounts, and we've just called that the chart. So there's our chart of accounts. What's the chart of accounts? It's a list of all the accounts that this business wants to record information for. And so it lines up very well with the trial balance. It's in the same order, but the chart of accounts has every account we have. The trial balance may not, if there's some accounts that are not used much, with zero balances. They're often not in there. Now we've put some in here because this is an exercise. We've put some of those zero balances in. Then next there's a list of the transactions for the month. So on the 1st of June we sell 17 computers on credit to Fred Flintstone for $2,100 each, GST exclusive, invoice number 241, terms 1010, net 30. Now I'll explain these to you as we go along. Next, something we won't come to until much later is the bank statement. And there'll be some things we'll talk through the bank statement. Then we get into the journals. The first journal we have is the special journal. And there's been one item left in there for you. Now, one thing you'll notice is there's lots of green coloured cells here. Now, I won't tell you what they're for just yet, but we'll see if you work out what the green coloured cells are about. In the special journals, and again we'll talk more about special journals later on, but we have sales, special journal, purchases special journal, cash receipts special journal, and cash payments special journal. The cash receipts and the cash payments, those of you that have had some exposure to bookkeeping, they're what's commonly referred to as the cash book. So the cash book is made up of the cash receipts special journal and the cash payment special journal. Then we've got a summary of the inventory. Now that's something you need to update as you go along. Then we have two subsidiary ledgers. They're the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger. That's all the people that owe you money. And they arise, come back here. In special journals, when you make a sale on credit, well, that will need to go into the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger. And there is the accounts payable subsidiary ledger, and that arises when you make a purchase on credit. That will also need to be posted to the accounts payable subsidiary ledger. Then we move to the general ledger, and in the general ledger we have transactions that don't fit in in the general journal we have transactions that don't fit into the subsidiary ledger. Now, I'd like to emphasise you don't need to necessarily know any of this yet, but over the course of this trimester, you'll become very familiar with all of these. Then we have the general ledger, is where we post all our journal entries. The trial balance, which is the summary of the general ledger. And there's been some accounts left in here just to let you know whether you're on track or not. And also, again, we see some cells here are green. Now, when we get here, that's the trial balance. There's another thing we'll come to later referred to as the accounting worksheet. And from this bit here across is the worksheet. And we'll talk more about that. Then we get to some of the financial statements. We get to the bank reconciliation next, which doesn't come to later in the trimester. Then we get to financial statements, being the income statement, statement of changes in equity, and then the balance sheet. There is also another statement called the cash flows, but we haven't put that in here. We may add it later in the unit just so you see how it works, but it's not something we actually study in this unit. Then we get to some working papers and questions that they're just questions you may have yourself. You may come to this page, write questions in here if you're working on something, and then go and post them up to the forum. And then here's some ratios which we'll look at later on. Actually, I've still got all the answers to the ratios in there. So again, that's something I might take out. Righto, that's about 10 minutes. That's the introduction we've almost worked through. And I'll come back and then I'll start doing the assignment for you. So we go here, save as. So you might just save this to your computer and well, a few things to bear in mind. You might just start out with the year and practice set. Might be a useful name for it. So, but that will depend how you've set your computer up. So the next one, we'll look at starting the assignment.